Hello, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today we will be talking about Donald Eugene Webb. I do apologize in advance if I pronounce anything wrong. Donald Eugene Perkins was born in Oklahoma City in 1931. He was raised by his parental grandfather. Perkins enlisted in the United States Navy but received a dishonorable discharge. Perkins legally changed his name to Webb in 1956 in Bristol County, Massachusetts. Webb worked as a butcher, salesman, restaurant manager, and vending machine repairman before 1979. Webb spent extended periods in the southwest New England and on the West Coast. After Webb's disappearance in 1980, his relatives and criminal associates consistently refused to cooperate with investigators. Webb had married Lillian and they had a son together. In 1981, Webb's wife Lillian lived in South Dartmouth, Massachusetts. She worked as a saleswoman for a now defunct New Bedford box company. In 1999, it was reported that Lillian, her son, and other relatives of Donald Webb were living in the Boston area. Webb had convictions for burglary, possession of counterfeit money, possession of a weapon and dangerous instruments, break-in and entering, armed bank robbery, grand larceny, and car theft. In the mid-1970s, Webb served a 2-year prison term in New York State Prison. The FBI has considered Webb a master of assumed identities. New York and Pennsylvania police have described Webb as an internet burglar well-versed in the art of criminal impersonation. Webb was identified by the FBI as an associate of the Patrica crime family, who made a living robbing banks, jewelry stores, and high-end hotels up and down the East Coast. They fenced the goods through the mob in Providence, Rhode Island. He was also involved with an organized crime outfit in the Miami area, where he would also fence the goods. In 1979, Webb and 2 accomplices allegedly burglarized suburban Albany homes while posing as sewer and water inspectors. Webb and Frank Joseph Latch, one of the accomplices, were arrested in Colony, New York. They were charged with attempted burglary, but after their bails were posted, bail of Webb was $35,000. They failed to appear at a December 1979 court date. Frank Joseph Latch was closely associated with Webb. Latch is from Cranston, Rhode Island, and was believed to be involved with a Massachusetts-based gang responsible for a number of jewel thefts from residences and businesses in the 1960s and 1970s, as well as having ties to organized crime in New England and South Florida. Although the last known connection of Webb and Latch was in Allentown, Pennsylvania in July 1980, Latch was believed to be with Webb when he killed Police Chief Gregory Adams in December 1980 in Saxonburg. Latch was subsequently wanted by the FBI for interstate flight from justice. He was captured in South Miami, Florida in May 1982. He was extradited to New York, where he was convicted of burglary and bell jumping. He was paroled in November 1985. In February 1986, he was convicted by a federal jury of conspiracy to transport stolen property interstate and of driving under the influence, and parole violation in June 1996. Latch served time in federal prison and was released in October 2000. Latch passed away on November 4th, 2017, at his house in Cranston, Rhode Island, 19 days before his 77th birthday. On December 4th, 1980, Gregory B. Adams, a 31-year-old police chief of Saxonburg, Pennsylvania, and 9-year veteran of law enforcement, made a routine traffic stop in the parking lot of Agway Feed Store on Butler Street. Adams used his patrol car to stop the suspect by blocking the exit of the parking lot. When he asked the suspect for his driver's license, the suspect gave fraudulent identity documents and shot Adams. He returned fire, but the shots were not fatal. The man believed to be Donald Eugene Webb got out of the car and fought with Adams, disarming him and pistol whipping him with his own revolver. Witnesses heard fired shots, 4 pop noises presumably from a semi-automatic 25 caliber Colt pistol, and a boom from Adams' revolver. He was shot once in the arm and once in the chest at close range. By another account, Adams was shot twice in the chest, one bullet collapsing a lung and another tearing through the bottom of his heart. Adams was not wearing his bulletproof vest at the time. The killer took Adams' gun, ran to his patrol car and ripped out his microphone and took the keys before driving away in his own car. A nearby resident found the mortally wounded Adams, who told her that he did not know his attacker and that he thought he was not going to live. Adams was so badly beaten, he was almost unrecognizable. Adams lost consciousness on the way to the hospital and died of his injuries. He was survived by his wife Mary Ann Adams and their 2 sons, Benjamin and Gregory Jr. Adams is buried in St. Mary's Cemetery in Herman, Pennsylvania. A 25 caliber Colt pistol, O-type blood, Webb's blood type, and a New Jersey driver's license bearing the name Stanley John Portis, an alias of Webb and the name of his wife Lillian's late prior husband, were among the evidence found at the murder scene. Portis had died in 1948. Webb is believed to have been in Saxonburg for a planned burglary of a jewelry store. Adams' revolver was later found approximately 7 miles away along Corn Planter Road in Winfield Township, Pennsylvania. All 6 bullets of the weapon had been fired. A white Mercury Cougar, which Webb had rented, was allegedly used as a getaway car. 2 weeks later, it was found abandoned at a Howard Johnson motel in Warwick, Rhode Island. Significant amounts of O-type blood were found under the steering wheel, suggesting that Webb was wounded by gunfire in the struggle with Adams. Webb was named as a main suspect in the killing of Adams, and a nationwide manhunt began. He was charged in absentia with murder, attempted burglary, and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. A federal arrest warrant was issued for him on December 31st. On May 4, 1981, Webb was named as the 375th fugitive to be placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list. Webb had strong ties to Fall River and New Bedford, Massachusetts, where the last confirmed sighting of him was made by an anonymous tipster in July 1981. It was reported to the Boston FBI office, but Webb had fled by the time investigators arrived. There were later unconfirmed sightings of Webb, or men resembling him, in Massachusetts, Washington, Canada, and Costa Rica. In January 1990, FBI Director William S. Sessions received a letter postmarked January 23rd and written by someone claiming to be Webb, asking for forgiveness for Adams' family. The letter suggested he might surrender to authorities, but only if he could talk directly to John Walsh, host of the TV show America's Most Wanted. Walsh said on his show that the FBI's evidence technicians examined the letter and believed it was authentic. Handwriting tests were inconclusive. They have since been discounted as accurate forensic evidence anyway. On April 1st, 1990, a man claiming to be Webb called John Walsh, but when asked questions to confirm his identity, was able to name 2 of Webb's close relatives. The call was dismissed as an April Fool's joke. The murder case was featured in an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. After more than 18 years on the list, on September 14, 1999, Webb was noted as the fugitive with the longest tenure on the FBI 10 Most Wanted list, surpassing the previous record held by Charles Lee Heron. In April 2005, an unidentified man in Detroit was found using Webb's name, age, and social security number. Detroit police tracked the address to a burned-out house in a poor section of town. Authorities considered this a case of identity theft, however unusual. The FBI removed Webb from the 10 Most Wanted list on March 31, 2007. He was replaced by Shante Henderson. Webb held the record of being on the FBI's wanted list longer than any other fugitive until 2010, when Victor Manuel Granina surpassed his record. Although Webb was still a fugitive, considered armed and dangerous by the FBI, the significant lack of leads made some investigators believe Webb had died. On December 4th, 2015, the FBI increased the reward to $100,000 for information leading to the arrest of Webb or to the location of his remains. Key investigators included the FBI special agent assigned to finding Webb, believed he was still alive. On June 1st, 2017, Mary Ann Adams Jones, the police chief's widow who had remarried, filed a lawsuit for civil damages against Donald Eugene Webb, his wife Lillian Webb, and Webb's stepson Stanley Webb. FBI investigators had announced that in 2016 they had discovered a secret room hidden behind a closet in the basement of Lillian Webb's home in North Dartmouth, Massachusetts. The room had not existed when Lillian purchased the home. Agents also believed a cane inside the room, which they believed may have been used by Webb after being shot in the leg by Adams. On June 15, 2017, the FBI released newly acquired photographs of Webb taken in the 1970s. They hoped these would aid in gaining the public's assistance in either capturing Webb or locating his remains. Faced with prosecution for harboring a criminal, Lillian Webb arranged to confess to police and the FBI. She told about sheltering Webb and the strokes he suffered near the end of his life. He had been treated for 4 weeks in Toby Hospital in Wareham, Massachusetts, under an assumed name for the serious injuries to his leg in 1980. She led the FBI human remains buried on the grounds of her Dartmouth home. On July 17, 2017, the remains were identified by FBI forensic investigators as belonging to Webb. The investigators found that Webb had died in 1999 after suffering multiple strokes. State police documents said that Webb had lived for nearly 19 years, hidden by his wife in the 2 different houses where she lived in at that time.
Thank you for listening. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing and liking my channel, and I will see you on the next one.